Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of Women's Wrestling Focus, brought to you by SEScoops and hosted by me, Ella J of a Wrestling Gal podcast. Now today, dare I say that we are officially in the month of August finally, and truthfully, this month is going to be the month for women's wrestling. If you don't already know, there is so much content and shows and lots of exciting stuff coming up in the future of women's wrestling in the month of August. So today's episode is going to be a preview and an overview of some of the events, some of the major events that are going to be happening this month and all the excitement leading up to it. There is really so much going on this month, and I am super excited. Women's wrestling is really heating up in the month of August, and dare I say, it is going to be the best month of the year for women's wrestling because, like they say, women's wrestling matters in my hearts, in your hearts, and all the hearts of women's wrestling fans alike. So, without further ado, let's get on with the video. Now, to start things off, perhaps one of the most highly anticipated events happening this month is NWA's all-women's pay-per-view, Empower, coming up on Saturday, August 28th from St. Louis, Missouri, and also will be airing on Fight TV. And I personally am going myself, so I am super stoked to be doing some live coverage for SEScoops and bringing you all the deets and the excitement on this event and leading up to it and the aftermath. This event is really going to be game-changing, especially for the NWA division, as they are kind of still in the process of building and rebranding their women's division. And so this pay-per-view, I really think, is going to elevate and expand, but also showcase their roster and everybody that they're bringing in outside of it. There has already been, obviously, outside involvement from Impact, with Deonna Purrazzo now set to defend her Knockouts Championship at NWA Empower against an opponent that is yet to be publicly named. And also, it has been revealed that Camille, the current NWA Women's World Champion, will be defending her championship against the winner of Layla Hirsch and Bunny, which is set to air tonight on AEW television, which is determining the number one contender, where the winner will go on to NWA Empower to face Camille for the NWA Women's World Championship. And that in and of itself is huge because now not only is NWA crossing over with Impact, but now we're also seeing some AEW talent in NWA in Empower, and maybe there could be more. There is still a lot to be announced for this card, but it is shaping up really well, especially in the vision of a 9-time major women's champion and the executive producer, Mickie James. And speaking of Mickie James, she will also be wrestling on NWA 73 in really her in-ring return for the first time since the Royal Rumble. And so this is going to be huge for her. I have no idea who she is facing, but it's definitely a highly anticipated matchup. And also featured on NWA 73 will be the winner of the first ever Women's Invitational, set to be competing in an NWA Women's World Championship match. Whoever the champion may be at that time, whoever walks out of Empower as champion has to wrestle the next night on NWA 73 in a huge championship match, set to face the winner of the 10-woman invitational, which is going to be main eventing NWA Empower. And just last night, Mickie James took to Instagram to announce that Chelsea Green will officially be entering this year's NWA Women's Invitational. And obviously we already know Mickie and Chelsea have a little bit of a history, but now Chelsea is set for NWA Empower officially alongside Tootie Lynn and Jamie Senegal so far, especially for this NWA Women's Invitational, which was revealed to be main eventing the evening. And there's obviously other talents announced like Kylie Rae and Genocide and presumably the rest of the NWA women's roster, which would mean Melina, Taryn Terrell, Sky Blue, Serena Deeb, and much more. So NWA Empower is going to be absolutely huge, and we're also getting the return of the NWA Women's Tag Team Championships, and overall, I am just super, super excited. There is so much that we don't even know yet publicly, and I am so excited to see these announcements start to roll out, especially leading up to this amazing event. I will be there in person. I am so excited. It's my first ever pay-per-view, guys, so I'm even more excited. So NWA Empower looks pretty promising, and so I think it's going to absolutely be huge, not only for women's wrestling in general, but especially for NWA as they are looking to expand and really strengthen their women's roster and their whole brand as a whole. And so I am super grateful and glad that Mickie James is spearheading this pay-per-view, and she is the executive producer alongside the likes of Gail Kim, Medusa, Jazz, and a few other names. And so, and also Lady Frost will be there at NWA, and Kenzie Page. And again, there's just so many talents that we don't even know yet, but so far out of everybody who's been introduced, I am really looking forward to this NWA Women's Invitational. I think it's going to be absolutely huge. It is the main event, so it looks like it's going to deliver. So I'm excited. NWA Empower, August 28th. That is going to be amazing. And also in the month of August, we obviously have the classic WWE SummerSlam and NXT Takeover, but this year the dates are kind of reversed. So SummerSlam is taking place first on Saturday, August 21st from Las Vegas, and then the following night on Sunday, August 22nd, we have NXT Takeover. And so far for SummerSlam, we have one women's match confirmed so far for the Raw Women's Championship. The defending champion, Nikki ASH, who recently cashed in her Money in the Bank, will be defending the Raw Women's Championship against two former champions, the Queen, Charlotte Flair, and the Nightmare, Rhea Ripley. Now, we also can't count out the possibility of Sasha Banks just recently made her return on Friday Night SmackDown just last week, and it appears she's setting her sights on Bianca Belair to set up a potential rematch for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Now, it hasn't been official, but I would say it's highly likely we are getting another round of Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair because Sasha technically never got her rematch, so that one is going to be super cool. I would expect to be seeing it, expecting it to be announced very soon. If it's not, then I don't know what they're doing, but I really want Sasha versus Bianca 2.0. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing, and obviously the triple threat match for the Raw Women's Championship is going to be huge, but I'm hoping that there's at least one more women's match on the card. Obviously, Bayley is out of the equation due to her knee injury, and so we will see what WWE comes up with for the women for SummerSlam outside of championship opportunities. So I'm hoping for one more at least to give us something, you know? But NXT Takeover is also looking really promising, taking place on Sunday, August 22nd. Obviously, no matches have been officially confirmed so far, but there is two likely possibilities. Obviously, Dakota Kai has turned on her former Alliance member Raquel Gonzalez and is now setting her sights on the NXT Women's Championship, and rightfully so, because Dakota's kind of been steering in the shadows the last few months, really over the last better half of last year, and then all of this year she's been kind of waiting in the wings for her rightful opportunity. And so she just cut an amazing promo yesterday on NXT, and so Raquel Gonzalez will be responding next week on NXT, which will likely lead to the build-up for a match at NXT TakeOver, hopefully for the NXT Women's Championship, where maybe Dakota finally captures that true gold and, you know, holds it for over an hour. Hopefully, you know. But we also have the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Io Shirai and Zoe Stark, most likely set to defend their championships against who? We don't know. Maybe it's Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. We really don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they lead up to NXT Takeover, especially in their women's tag team division. We've obviously also seen a huge rise in the Robert Stone brand with Frankie Monet and Jessi Kamea, but also Mandy Rose is seemingly doing some stuff. And then you also have Gigi Dolan seemingly in the NXT women's tag team picture. And so maybe Mandy Rose will have some involvement. They have to set up something for their tag teams. So I'm sure we will see some variant of the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions against some other team yet to be determined. And so that I would say at least 2 women's matches. Maybe, hopefully, for a third. NXT does a great job at featuring a lot of their women. Maybe we'll finally get Candice LeRae versus Indy Hartwell, because Indy is now together as Index with Dexter Lumis, so maybe they'll set up some tension there. We'll see. There's a lot of possibilities, but NXT TakeOver, their championship matches obviously are going to be epic. I'm highly looking forward to the highly anticipated and highly likely Dakota Kai versus Raquel Gonzalez, but also it'll be cool to really see Io Shirai and Zoe Stark really in action defending their championships for the first time. So I'm really interested to see how they build up this chemistry between Shirai and Stark, and to see how formidable they can actually be as a tag team. So I think this is really the first true test for them as tag team champions now, but I think it's going to be amazing nonetheless. Now, moving on, we also have another big event with Pro Wrestling Eve bringing back Wrestle Queendom 4 on Friday, August 27th. And nothing has officially been confirmed so far, but the talent in Pro Wrestling Eve itself is going to be amazing. And so obviously you would maybe expect the Pro Wrestling Eve champion, Rhea O'Reilly, to be there. We've also seen a lot of the likes of Laura DiMatteo and Heidi Katrina and Nightshade and Casey, but nothing really has been confirmed so far. And obviously the Princess Diana of wrestling, Jeddah has to be there, right? I am so looking forward to this. Wrestle Queendom 4 is huge for independent wrestling, and especially as it's taking place from the UK. They are showing off their premier women's talent from the United Kingdom, and really, they deliver every single year. And so it'll be interesting to see who really comes in. Will we maybe see some NXT UK talent who formerly worked for Pro Wrestling Eve? We really don't know, but Pro Wrestling Eve is putting on another all-women's pay-per-view. Wrestle Queendom 4 always delivers. As I say, it stands and delivers. They're going to show up and show out. So I highly suggest watching Wrestle Queendom 4 as well, the day before Empower, actually. So you can get all women's actions back-to-back nights if you really, really want to. But there's also another event coming up on the same day as Empower. So really, you could have 3 fixings of women's wrestling all within like less than 24 hours, you know? And the day of August 28th, actually earlier in the day, right before Empower at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, will be New Texas Pro Wrestling holding their first ever Women's Texas Grand Prix tournament with 8 competitors competing with the Prodigy Roxy, the New Texas Pro Wrestling Women's Champion, the Killer Bay, Heather Monroe, the Queen of House Rose, Rachel Rose. We also have Killa Kate, Mia Friday, Promise Braxton, Charity Kane, and Haley D. And this one, again, is going to be absolutely epic. Again, it is women making history in the first ever Women's Texas Grand Prix tournament. It is going to be absolutely epic. And really, whoever comes out of this tournament as the winner, I think, is really going to have a lot of bragging rights, because going up against 8 of the most premier athletes, especially in the Texas scene, which has so many amazing talents and is really a hot spot for women's wrestling right now, is gonna be amazing. So I know I'm gonna be watching in the midst of on my way to Empower. So right before Empower, if you're looking for a fixing in women's wrestling, New Texas Pro Wrestling is holding their Texas Grand Prix. So it's gonna be absolutely epic, especially if you're not familiar with some of the names, which you really should be. But in the event that you aren't, I highly suggest checking this one out. It's going to be amazing. So many amazing talent in this, and it's really anybody's game. You obviously have some established names like Heather Monroe in there, but you also have some up-and-comers like Roxy and Rachel Rose and Mia Friday, who is absolutely up-and-coming and really, really rising in the Texas scene. And Roxy is obviously also featured on Ring of Honor's Women's Championship Tournament, which, again, is also happening in the month of August. There's a lot happening in the month of August, guys. I apologize, but it's really an exciting time to be here. And so, talking about the Ring of Honor Women's Championship Tournament, Roxy just overcame one of the biggest veterans in Ring of Honor history in Sumi Sakai. Roxy, the Prodigy, defeated Sumi Sakai in the first round of this tournament. And so she advances then to the quarterfinals alongside Miranda Alizé and Nicole Savoy, who also advanced to the second round. But Alizé and Savoy will actually be going against each other, and so that one is going to be really, really cool. And so, obviously, all throughout the month of August, Ring of Honor is going to be continuing their first round matchups, and obviously then going into the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and then the finals. And so, it'll be cool to see all of this women's wrestling action in the Ring of Honor arena, continuing on Women's Division Wednesdays, which, speaking of, tonight we have Allison Kay versus Willow Nightingale on Women's Division Wednesday. That one is going to be epic. Two of the best free agents in wrestling right now, Allison Kay versus Willow Nightingale. It's a dream matchup, and we're getting it in the first round. So just imagine the potential matchups we have for later rounds, and it's going to be insane. But also, speaking of this championship tournament, it should be noted that Quinn McKay recently took the final spot due to a fan vote-in, which she got 95% of the votes in a landslide. So Quinn is in, and Quinn is going to be facing Mandy Leon in the first round, in her first round matchup. And so everybody knows the history of McKay and the Allure with Angelina Love and Leon, at which Leon and Angelina Love are actually banned from ringside for each other's matches. And so Quinn McKay finally gets a true shot at overcoming the Allure, which in this case will be Mandy Leon. So can Quinn McKay overcome Mandy Leon in a clean matchup, supposed to be clean matchup? So we will see where we go from here. Angelina Love obviously gets a first round bye and automatically advances to the second round, but nonetheless, this tournament features 15 of the greatest women's wrestlers today, and already we've been seeing some shock victories, and I am so proud of Roxy defeating a legendary veteran, Sumi Sakai, and there's going to be more surprises in this tournament and definitely more lovely action. And so this one is obviously going to be one to watch with the ongoing Ring of Honor Women's Championship Tournament, which will crown the inaugural Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. And I'm super stoked for it. But, you know, speaking of Roxy and the Texas talents, that brings us to one of the next events, which is Mission Pro Wrestling's Shoot to Thrill event, which is happening on August 20th. And Mission Pro Wrestling is obviously spearheaded by AEW's now Thunder Rosa. And Mission Pro Wrestling has been running for a while now, and it is definitely at the top of one of the most elite all-women's companies and shows ever, really. They constantly deliver great talent. Obviously, a lot of it is based in the Texas scene, but it's cool to see them branching out. And so this Shoot to Thrill event is really, it's happening the week before Empower and Wrestle Queendom and all these fun events. So you're going to be getting weekend after weekend of amazing wrestling content as this takes place on August 20th. Mission Pro Wrestling Shoot to Thrill. There's going to be so many of the amazing Texas talent there and some new faces. And so I'm super stoked to see how this goes down. And Mission Pro, again, is always at the top of the game. And really, really, I think pushing a lot of boundaries and barriers in women's wrestling that we don't get to see a lot of, or at least we're starting to, but Mission Pro really has been doing it for a while now. And so they are definitely one to watch as well. And following that event, we also have WWR Plus's Say You'll Be There event taking place on August 22nd with some elite names. 2 Impact knockouts right now. We have Jordynne Grace, we have Kimberly, Trish Adora, Megan Bayne, Kennedy Copeland, and many, many more appearing at this event. And so they're bringing in the big guns for this one. You have some amazing names like Jordynne Grace and Kimberly coming in. Again, mixing it up with some of the hottest free agents and unsigned talents now like Trish Adora, Megan Bayne, Kennedy Copeland. You also have Riley Shepard. And this one, WWR Plus, has been holding amazing events. Really, really cool stuff here. So if you're a fan, I definitely highly suggest checking this out as well. Say you'll be there? Maybe let them know. Let WWR Plus know. And obviously this is a crossover with Women's Wrestling Revolution and Beyond Wrestling to bring you WWR Plus. And to see 2 promotions come together like that is something really, really special. And they really always deliver on the amazing content. And you have some amazing talents lined up for this event, which again, this whole month of August is really, really bringing it. And again, this is going to be another great event. And also coming up this month, we have Kylie Rae, NWA's own Kylie Rae, set to defend her Warrior Wrestling Women's Championship against who? AEW and Mission Pro's own Thunder Rosa. This one is going to be insane. 2 of the top women's wrestlers today competing in really a dream matchup of myself and for a lot of other people. But Warrior Wrestling bringing this to their Stadium Series is absolutely huge. Kylie Rae and Thunder Rosa are 2 of the best in the game today. And this one, if you didn't already know about it, you now know. So you definitely need to check out Warrior Wrestling, their Stadium Series coming up, where Kylie Rae is defending her Warrior Wrestling Women's Championship against Thunder Rosa. I have goosebumps just thinking about the potential for this matchup. No, I know it's going to be great. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps of how good it's going to be. It's really going to be insane. But also goosebumps right now. Stardom is also holding their 5-star Grand Prix, which is underway, which is taking place the entire month of August. We have already seen the first 2 opening rounds conclude, and this one is also another annual event that is really set to produce an amazing star. Whoever wins this tournament is really going to have a lot of bragging rights because Stardom has so many amazing talents. And so if you're not already watching Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix event, it's happening pretty much the entire month of August, where eventually they will crown a winner who will take home the bragging rights and the crown. Stardom, again, is another elite all-women's company in Japan, and hopefully we can get some of the stars over here in America, or some of the States, or maybe people from the UK back over there in Stardom, because I love the crossovers they have. Obviously, we've seen like Jamie Hayter, Bobby Tyler, Zoe Lucas. We've seen Hyon in Stardom. We've seen so many people go into Stardom and really come back really better than ever. And Stardom again is really one of the biggest women's promotions in the world, and they are doing amazing things. It's so cool to see their 5-star Grand Prix finally back, and I think it's going to be so good, whoever wins this. It's already close matchups. So far, we're only into the first 2 opening rounds at the time of recording this, but it's really going to be epic. And speaking of epic, like another crossover event, we have Lucha Libre AAA Triple Manias coming up on August 14th, which will be featuring a championship versus championship match. Fabi Apache defending her Reina de Reinas championship against who? The Impact Knockouts champion, Diana Purrazzo, will also have her championship on the line, where the winner will take home all the gold. This one is amazing. This one is going to be epic. A championship versus championship match. We have the Reina de Reinas championship versus the Impact Knockouts Championship, where the winner will take home both championships. They will be taking home all the gold. So imagine what this means if Deonna Purrazzo walks out of Triple Mania as not only the Impact Knockouts champion, but also the Reina de Reinas champion. Imagine this. This takes place August 14th, and then imagine Deonna is double champion. She also has NWA Empower 2 weeks later. Do you know what this means? Maybe we could have both our championships on the line at NWA Empower. We'll see. We will see. But imagine Deonna Purrazzo walks into NWA Empower as a double champion, as with both of them on her shoulders. I think this one is going to be one to watch. And I think it's really been a little bit underrated as of late. But it really shouldn't be understated because there's really a lot at stake here. Because imagine Deonna walks out as champion, but what happens if she doesn't? Then what happens? This has a lot of NWA Empower implications as well, along with Impact implications. So we will see what happens. But this one between Fabi Apache and Deonna Purrazzo is going to be epic, an epic showdown at Triple Mania on August 14th. And coming up this weekend, actually, is another exciting event. A really new all-women's company, Capital Championship Wrestling, is holding their Blood in the Sand event featuring the Renegade Twins, Veda Scott, Megan Bain, Vicious Vicky, Kayla Sparks, and many, many more. And this is one to be watching again. This is their first ever event, and I'm excited to see where they go from here, and they already have a stacked roster for this event and just in general. So, Capital Championship Wrestling, CCW Action on Twitter, I'm excited to see how they start up and where they go from here. They have an amazing roster on lock. They have revealed their entire roster on Twitter if you go through. And really some of the names on this card are some big, big names, but also thinking of building new stars and up-and-coming stars, giving them a chance to showcase and spotlight themselves is super, super cool. You get to see a crossover of some veterans, also some up-and-comers, some rising stars. And so this one I think is going to be an underrated one to watch, and don't count them out just yet. So I think Capital Championship Wrestling has a lot of promise, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. But the last event on my list is also taking place SummerSlam weekend in Las Vegas. We have Future Stars of Wrestling in Las Vegas holding their Future Stars of Women's Wrestling on August 22nd at 2 p.m. So right before NXT Takeover, you have the opportunity to watch some Future Stars of Women's Wrestling, which the FSW Women's Champion Maserati, Sandra Moon, Viva Van, Vert Vixen, Christy Janes, and many, many more. This is going to be cool because this is literally showcasing future stars of women's wrestling, some rising stars, some women who are on the brinks of breaking out. And this one is going to be cool because you have some stars that maybe people haven't necessarily heard of, and giving them a major platform to showcase themselves and show what they got and show themselves off with their amazing in-ring abilities. And again, setting the tone for SummerSlam weekend in Vegas. Obviously, we have SummerSlam on Saturday, August 21st. Then you have Future Stars of Women's Wrestling at 2 p.m. on August 22nd. And then later that night, you have NXT TakeOver. So you're getting a lot of women's wrestling content in just over an entire weekend. And the following weekend, you have the new Texas Pro Wrestling Texas Grand Prix, you have Wrestle Queendom 4, you have NWA Empower, and NWA 73. And again, so back-to-back weekends, there's a lot happening, and really all throughout the month of August, there is a lot happening for women's wrestling, like I said, and this isn't even all of it. There are so many other amazing events coming up too, like obviously Progress Chapter 117 is featuring an amazing women's match. You also have TNT Extreme Wrestling, their Summer Explosion pay-per-view. I think it's going to be really, really fun for women's wrestling fans. And so obviously there is a lot going on in the month of August for women's wrestling pay-per-views and events, and so many exciting matchups happening that I think is going to be really, really fun and really groundbreaking to watch. I think this month is really setting the tone for hopefully what will be the rest of 2021 as we go into the fall. So hopefully this is really, really the start of the re-emergence of women's wrestling. And I think this is giving me and a lot of people a lot of hope. And so I really hope that this sets the tone for the rest of this year. The month of August is going to be splashing in women's wrestling content. It's really, really heating up. And hopefully this sets the tone for the rest of the year and really changes the game, I think, in people's mindsets of women's wrestling to where women get featured more on the card or maybe longer matches, or we see more all-women shows, or, you know, just I have high hopes, and August is really setting the tone for the rest of this year. And so I think the bar has been really set high this month. And really, going forward, we really should be taking some more steps forward. I think this is definitely a great stepping stone, and hopefully we can continue forward and keep making strides, because it's really going to be an epic month. And again, there were so many other amazing events happening that I didn't even mention and that are likely coming up this month too. Really going forward, people need to realize that women's wrestling does matter. As you know, a wise woman once said, women's wrestling matters. It really, really does. I know a lot of people like myself and other people are highly looking forward to this. Like, women's wrestling is really such a draw right now, and it's really something to be taking notice of. And this month alone, if you're not invested yet, I highly suggest checking some stuff out right now, because there's a lot. There's a lot of amazing and promising talent that are sure to deliver. No, I know they will deliver, and I'm excited for it. And so really, to conclude this episode, there's a lot of events coming up, and hopefully you take notice them and maybe focus, as a women's wrestling focus, as we say, maybe focus in on a few of them that are maybe catching your eye and just give them a chance, you know? I think a lot of them are going to deliver, but not everything is everybody's cup of tea. So maybe just give one of them a chance, hopefully anyway. And so really, again, thank you for watching the 11th episode of Women's Wrestling Focus as we previewed and overviewed this month's crazy calendar events in women's wrestling. It is so exciting to be living in this moment in August of 2021. And again, hopefully it really continues into the fall, and hopefully into next year we keep making those strides into getting women's wrestling noticed more and really, really focusing in on all the amazing talent that are coming up and events that are sure to deliver. And also don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more episodes of Women's Wrestling Focus and to SEScoops in general as we look to build more and more content for everybody. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up. And if you're going to be at NWA Empower or NWA 73, hit me up on Twitter at @It'sEllaJ. I will be there. I am so excited to be going on behalf of SEScoops to be covering NWA Empower and NWA 73. That weekend is going to be absolutely incredible, and so I hope to see you all there. But if not, you can check it out on Fight TV. So without further ado, this is Ella J signing off on the 11th episode of Women's Wrestling Focus. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you all have a great, great day and a great month of August.